Hey there, I am going to be watching a YouTube video on how to sew a 3D face mask with one pattern piece. And the instructions are on this YouTube video that I'm watching on my phone. So the video, I'll put it in the link below, but it's made by Marcy Harriell. I think that's how you say her name. And I'm just going to watch the video and try to follow along with her instructions. And I'll just be sharing with you my results of that. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video here just so you can see. And I have it on 2x speed because I just want to, speed it up and see what she's doing. I'm just going to fast forward to the part where she starts doing the folding. So she says to get a piece of paper. I don't know if you can see that, but she says get a piece of paper and fold it in half and then fold it in half again. So I'm going to try that. I'm just going to let you guys kind of follow me along on this journey as I try to sew this. And the reason I'm trying to make this type of face mask is because it looks like it has a lot less curved lines than the kind that I've been making, which are kind of that like rounded shaped mask. I don't have one here to show you otherwise. Might have one in the corner somewhere, but I just made one for myself. And I planned to make more, but then, I got laid off, or not laid off, but I got furloughed from my job. And then I started sewing them for other people. And I just kind of got too busy to make any for other people or to make more for myself. I just started making them for other people. Long story long. I have only ever made myself one mask. And that's worked for me because I don't really need to leave the house. I'm not outside of the house every single day working with people. So, but my mask, the one mask I have is getting a little worn, just because it's been like 9 months. So I decided it's time for me to make another one. And I have a bunch of fabric that I need to use up. And it might be nice to just have, not, instead of having one and like when I want to wash it, I have to like wash it and then not like I basically have to wait until my mask is washed and ready, dried to wear another mask. So I have to be like really kind of strategic or just like rewear it, even if it feels like it might be feeling a little dirty. So anyway, the instructions that she says to do are to fold it in half and then fold it in half again. So I'm going to see what else she says. So now I have 2 folds, and then on the first fold, I'm supposed to mark at 4.5 inches. So I have a pencil here, and I have a T-square here. So I guess I'm supposed to mark it at, I'm going to rewind it. Oh, I went too far. Okay, so I'm supposed to mark it at, let me go back. Maybe I shouldn't have sped it up. All right, so it's just folding. You now have 2 folds. 2 folds. The first fold, mark 4.5 inches in. 4.5 inches in. From, I guess, from the edge here. Or I could just use my freaking mat here. Smarty pants that I am. So 1, 2, 3, 4.5. And I can also just measure this with the T-square so you guys can see it. There's 4.5. Okay, and then she says 1.5 inches up. Okay, so I'm gonna go up this way. And I guess that's 1.5 inches up from the bottom of the paper. So 1.5 is here, and then you're drawing a line. It's good enough. And then on the second fold on this side, you are marking at 2.5 inches. So I'm guessing 2.5 inches from the fold. So I'll try 1, 2.5. And I want to give Marlena, my friend Marlena, credit for this because she was making these the other day after I did a live stream. I guess she was watching my live stream, and then afterwards we were chatting, and she said she was watching my live stream while she was sewing her face masks, and she was using this style to make a bunch. Okay, so now she says I need to connect these two dots in a diagonal line. So I'm just gonna move this out of the way. So I'm gonna line it up and connect. Okay, so I've got my diagonal line.
There you go. Easy peasy. Now we're gonna cut it out.
And now I gotta cut it out through all layers of the paper. Okay, so I'm gonna get my scissors and cut. Through all the layers. And this is just a piece of computer paper. I guess I could, you know, like if this ends up being a pattern I really enjoy making, I can always trace it out on a piece of plain colored cardstock to get a piece that I can cut out more frequently. I don't know how to explain it, but like more of a template that is robust and will withstand being cut out over and over again with like a rotary cutter or a pair of fabric scissors. So I cut it out, like she said, all layers of paper, and then I unfold it and I mark it so I remember what I've cut. I did not see what she wrote down on there, so I'm gonna go back and look at it. I'm gonna slow it down. Oops, I'm gonna slow it down just so I can see what she is saying.
Let's see.
So main, I'm just gonna get a marker here.
Mark it up here so you remember what
Main and lining 3D mask. Okay, that's what she wrote on the inside. I'm gonna put it in green. So main and lining 3D mask. Okay, so I got that.
And this is your one and only pattern piece.
Okay, so this is my only pattern piece, she said. I'm gonna speed it back up to 2 times. Her husband is asking her about vanilla extract in the video.
Now you're gonna cut 4 of these bad boys out.
So I have to cut 4 of these.
Nose and chin area. And if your face is a little more squished like mine, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna take some of this width out. This pattern fits Rob's schnoz perfectly, but I mean it's a little large. So what I do is I just fold out.
So she said if it is a little large to fit on your face, you can like basically fold a little, you know, of it up to fit your face. You know, you bend it down to fit your face. I'm just gonna go with it as this for my first time, and then if it ends up being too big, I'll shrink it down. But I think I'll start out with the large. If it ends up being too big for me, I can always give it to someone else, like a friend or family member, or donate it. But that's okay. I don't really care. So now I need to find my fabric.
Now you can see that name piece fits me quite nicely. Mask for me, mask for Rob.
Okay. So I have to cut my contrast fabric. I'm just watching her video. My contrast fabric? I'm not sure what she means by that. So hold on. I'm gonna go get my fabric and then I'll be right back. Okay, I am back with some I got my fabric scissors and a rotary cutter, so that way I can cut out this fabric. And then I got this pink, it's like, it looks a lot pinker on the camera, but it's more of like a fuchsia, almost a purple pink color. And it has some like orange dots on it. It's like a batik print. And I went and dug through my stash and found some orange fabric that really works pretty well with it. I have this one too, but I kind of like, and I have this one. I kind of like that bow, but so I think I'm just going to, it looks really pretty like that though. I don't know, but I want to use up, I think I want to just use up what's left of this one that's already been cut, and then use up some of this fabric. And the reason I picked this fabric out is because it seemed like it would be just right for this to fit on here. So when she said your contrast fabric, I'm a little confused, I guess. And I can't tell if I'm supposed to cut out 2 or 1 or what. So I would like put my little pins in here and cut it out, but I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm doing here, so I think I'm just gonna hold it in place. And use my rotary cutter with my, like, just hold it in place with my hands, because I don't really know what she's asking me to do. So I'm just gonna cut out the one piece, and hopefully it's on grain. Like, I'm not, but if it's off by a little bit, it's okay. So I'll just cut this side. Oh, look at that. I have a sharp blade. That's nice. Doesn't always go that way. I'll cut this side. I feel like when I don't use a ruler, I'm always like, trying to cut this without like hurting myself, or like, I don't know. I don't want to get too close to my hands because I'm a worrywart. So I'm just going slowly and carefully and cutting it. So I got that side, and then I'll do this side. It's kind of at a weird angle. Maybe I'll turn it. That'll be easier to cut. Close enough. Okay, got that. I'm not sure if this is like, because she said the lining side, so I'm worried that this is going to be on the inside, but I can always cut 2. Guess I should watch her construct it all the way through. But I'm just winging it. Okay, so I have that cut. The cool thing about a rotary cutter, if you don't have one or have never used one, is that at least on this one, I have this little button that pushes the blade out. And then when I'm done and I want to retract the blade so I don't cut myself with the sharp end, and that is very sharp, my friends, very, very sharp. You do not want to accidentally like brush it against your hand. You just push this little button, boop, and it retracts. There's probably ones out there that are a little bit safer. This is an old one they've had for a long time, and gosh, probably 20 years or something. And I just keep buying replacement blades for it, you know, when it gets old. So, okay, I'm gonna finish watching her video. She's cutting it out. Oh, she did cut 2. Okay.
On the uppermost pattern piece, we're going to add a 1-inch extension to each side of the mask. This is going to be your all-in-one elastic casing.
Oh, okay. And then the elastic casing, you cut out one with an inch side for the lining. Okay, so I think I'm going to cut out another one of these pieces, and then I'm going to cut out, I'm going to have to, I hope I have enough for cutting out 2 of these. but when I cut out the second one of these orange ones, I need to add an inch extension piece. So, okay, I'm gonna go back to cutting out again. And this is why you should watch the video all the way through before you start cutting things out. But I did not do that. So do as I say and not as I do. Just making sure that it's aligned with the grain, which just means that when you look at the fabric and the way that it is, the threads of the fabric, the direction that the threads are going in is horizontal and vertical to your pattern piece, like right angles. And that way you don't end up having something which is cut on the bias, which just means that your fabric threads are more like turned to the side. Because if you do that, when you wear your mask, it'll have a little bit of stretch. You see how when I pull? So you don't want that. You want it to be like this. There is a little bit of stretch this way too. I mean, there is on most fabrics, but not much, not as much as if you had it here. Like that's a lot of stretch. And also this a lot of stretch. And I probably shouldn't even be doing this to this fabric, but it's okay. It'll get washed. It's been pre-washed and it's going to be washed a bunch of times because it's a mask and it's just a face mask. I don't care. But there's a lot less give in it this way or this way even than there is if I go on a diagonal. So that is something to know if you did not already know about what that means when it's telling you to cut on the grain line. So this pattern seems so far to be pretty straightforward. I like that there are not a bunch of round shapes that I have to cut because it seems to me like when I cut round shapes, I end up using or maybe not using, but like wasting a lot of my fabric. It creates a lot of extra weirdly shaped scraps that I don't know what to do. So already I'm happy about this because it seems like it wastes less fabric. And if you really wanted to, you could probably like figure out how to tile these and maximize your fabric usage so that you had like almost no waste. I don't know. I had this fabric, this orange and fuchsia fabric that I bought a really long time ago for a specific project, and I think I was going to make like a skirt, like a tiered skirt that has like different colored panels that are gathered, and I never followed through on it. And nowadays that is not something that I would really wear because I tend to be just kind of mostly black or gray, dark gray for my basics, and then I use color to accessorize mostly. So I do have some accessories that are colorful, but or some main clothing items that are colorful, but they're mostly like sweaters or like I have a pair of pants that's like red velvet or like burgundy velvet. But okay, so now I've cut those two pieces out. Those are my two. I should have doubled them up or doubled the fabric up to cut them, but it's okay. They seem like they are exactly the same, so that's good. And now I need to cut. So she cut one out that was with her, I guess, whatever fabric it was, and then one fabric that was with the extensions. I'm just gonna pause this and watch the rest of the video so I can see how she's like putting the mask together, constructing it, and then I'll come back and start cutting out this other liner because I'm getting confused a little. I should have watched it ahead. Okay, after watching the video all the way through, what she ends up doing is she makes another piece like this out of her contrast or her lining material, and then she makes a second piece, but she extends it about 1/2 inch, and that's her. It's not her lining material, it's her like outside material. And when she extends it, that's like a piece that she's going to fold over and like case the elastic inside of. And so, but the other thing I noticed is that when she is showing the mask, it has like a contrasting color at the top of the nose bridge and at the bottom. And I'm not sure I really care if my thing has like contrasting fabric at the nose bridge, I guess. So I think I'm just going to cut one piece of this out and then cut like this will be like the inside liner, and then I'll have the top and the bottom piece. These will be the top and the bottom pieces, and then I will have the outside fabric be this same material, because I want it to be this same fabric on top and bottom. I don't really want there to be a contrasting color in my case. I do like, I mean, I think it's cool to have a contrasting color on the inside so you know which side you put close to your face if you're re-wearing it or something like that. But I'm just going to just deviate slightly from her instructions. So I should have ironed this ahead of time, but I didn't because I am lazy. And just ain't nobody got time for that. So since this fabric, oh, actually this fabric is already folded and doubled, which is okay. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'll make the 1-inch extension piece. Okay, so she uses a little marker or like something to mark an inch extension with her ruler, which I'm going to get my ruler out. And since I don't want to use like a piece of chalk or whatever, but I do want to just kind of mark it and make sure I'm following along. I'm just going to use a Sharpie because I have one, and I'll just use a Sharpie that will blend in if it gets seen from the other side, but it's still really easy for me to see. So I think I'm going to use I have this pink. It's like a really bright fuchsia pink, and I think it'll be easy enough for me to see that there's a 1-inch kind of line up here for me to extend it to. But if it gets, I mean, it's going to get folded in, so I don't think it'll be that visible. But just so I have some kind of a visual marker, and I can connect the dots later. And then on this side, I'm going to do the same thing. It'd probably be easier if this wasn't all folded on top of itself. I'm not going to worry about being like super precise either, because I'm not all that worried about it. I just need to make sure that I don't forget to cut that. So, okay, got my ruler out of the way. And I'm going to cut this part first, actually, since I'm thinking about it and I want to make sure I don't forget. I'm just going to cut this piece this way. And then I'll come back and get that ruler and do it other way when I'm done. So she kind of cut it like, she kept the same exact like shape, you know, here and here. But when she got to the end, instead of cutting it like downwards, I don't know how to explain it, but instead of cutting it like at an angle and continuing that line down, she cut it like this, straight across. So I'm gonna try and duplicate that same thing here, just like cutting it straight across. And hopefully, if I need to, I can just use a pair of scissors to clean it up if I need to get more into that corner. But I'm sure it'll be fine. It's most of the time when you're sewing these masks, um, like while you have to be sort of precise, you don't have to be ultra precise because a lot of um, the seam allowance kind of hides some of those mistakes up that you have in your cutting when you're cutting things out. If things are wobbly or stringing, I'm not doing a good job of cutting this out because I can't see where I'm going. So I'm sorry about that. That's good enough for me. And then I'm going to just try to cut a straight line this way. And then now that I've cut that, I'm going to look and see where my mark was. I'm just going to move my scissors out of the way. See where my mark was. And it was, looks like it was right here. There's those two marks. Oops, I cut on my on my ruler, and it's plastic, so it kind of cut it. It's okay. And then I'm just gonna keep it straight across instead of trying to angle it. And that's good enough, I think. So this is going to be the one that's folded over twice. And it's just on the one side. So now I have 3, and then I'm going to cut my liner out of this. And since I'm cutting my liner, I just think I'm going to have to commit to making a second mask with this because I don't really feel like unfolding it to cut out my liner and just cut one piece since this fabric is already doubled over. So it's fine. I'll just make another mask. If I like it, I probably will want to make another mask. So I can just use this as my liner again. But I don't have to use that exact color. I could use this fabric instead, or like do this orange swirly stuff, or I don't know. I have a whole bunch of other types of fabric that I can use this orange as a liner for, because if it's not going to be seen on the outside, it doesn't really matter. So I do want to bring it kind of close to the edge so that I'm not wasting a lot of fabric. Let's do that. And after I cut this out, I will come back and I'm gonna have to figure out how I get you guys to the sewing machine because I don't really have anywhere to attach my camera or my phone. So that'll be interesting. If I'm not able to show you the actual sewing part, then I'll have to just talk about it and recap it with my finished mask, or just come and like show you after each seam that I sew. I'm going slow because this is a really sharp blade and I want to make sure I'm being somewhat precise and getting close to the paper. And I also don't want to like cut my fingers or just, make a mistake. And that's why having a kind of like like I said earlier, if I use this a lot and I really like it, then I would probably make a pattern piece out of some material like paper, cardstock paper, something a little heavier duty that I'm not as afraid to like zip around, I guess. And this is my first time, so I'm not sure what I'm doing here. I'm kind of just trying to be careful that I do follow the instructions. Okay, so now in her example, she had 2 contrasting pieces, and the way she set it up was she took the 2 contrasting pieces and she sandwiched them inside of her, like let's say this is the outer piece. She took her 2 contrasting pieces and she folded them like that, and then she stuck them like this. She ironed it, of course, which I'll probably do too. But she ironed it, folded it, and stuck them in there, and then she made another piece on top and sandwiched it together, and then she sewed it across the top, from here across the top, and from here across the bottom. And then she turned it inside out and sewed it, like stitched another seam or edge around the top edge. So after it's been folded out and stitched, it kind of looks like it kind of looks like that. And then you just press it and then you stitch it down. So like it just kind of helps it clean up the edge a little bit and make it so that it lays flat and lays nicely. So that all seems really straightforward. Like these two seams will take me no time at all, probably like 10 minutes. And then turning it out and stitching the other two, another 10 minutes. And I say 10 minutes because I'm also thinking like I'm gonna have to iron this. But after that, I just need to fold these in. And then she recommends when you fold these in that you fold them in a 1/4 inch, fold it in a 1/4 inch, and then iron it so that that double fold is really like secure. And then before you actually like stitch it, that you put your elastic inside the tube and then fold it over and then fold it over. And your elastic is already in there, so you don't have to fiddle with trying to, you know, throw like filter the elastic in to the casing using like a little um, safety pin or something else like that, like a tool, because that's a really big pain in the butt when you're trying to sew these masks. So that'll be something I'll give it a try. I'm excited about that because I can tell you I've had my fair share of trying to put elastics, or in my case, I wasn't using elastic because elastic couldn't be had back in April and May. Like it was really hard to find. So I ended up making crocheted um, ties that just, instead of going around the ears, they went around the whole back of the head and then the back of the neck. So you had, something that just stayed on. And then, maybe some people don't like that style. And if you don't like it, you could, probably cut it. But that's the design that I went with just because I wanted to make it easier on myself. And I didn't know how big people's ears were going to be. And I wasn't making them to measure to fit someone else's ears. So, anyway, I don't want to do that. Um, Contrasting. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pink or fuchsia, whatever you want to call it, and put it here. And then I'm going to put this other one here. And then I'm going to take my contrasting fabric and put it here and sandwich it. Actually, I'm going to put it outside, wrong side out. And then I'll sew it. And then when I flip it, this will be on the outs, like the right side will be on the outside. So, and then I just have an extra to, I'll make another one. So I think for now, I'm going to just stop because I need to get my ironing board out and I need to iron these and then I need to sew them. And I'll come back in when I have the ironing board out and when I have the sewing machine out, I'll come back and show you guys that process if I can set my camera up in a place where you can see it. But I'm definitely going to put the link below. So if you guys want to check out her video and make your own masks, you can. But I'm really glad my friend Marlena showed me this. I had seen her videos before and was like, oh, I should try hers out. But I hadn't seen anybody actually make them, like anybody I knew make them, or heard any testimonials. And my friend Marlena said she loves them. They're really easy and she prefers the fit of those masks. So I'm, might as well try it out. And I've got a lot more fabric than I expected to be having because I didn't expect to be brought back to work as soon as I was. So I had just been kind of collecting fabric. I wasn't buying any fabric. I was just asking people, or like people were giving me fabric. Somebody gave me some sheets to cut up, and I had a bunch of thrifted fabric that I had bought for some other projects that I was using, and I cut up, and now I just have like so much fabric that needs to get used up. And a lot of the fabric that I put aside for making masks is kind of already pre-washed and pre-trimmed to be easy to manage, like easy to iron and easy to cut out. So it's not really viable for many other types of projects at this point. I mean, I probably could figure out smaller projects like pillows or something like that. But you know, I don't really need to make any of those right now. So um uh we'll see how it goes. Okay, I am back with my little, I have a mini iron, and I've been letting it heat up, and then my ironing board, I covered this ironing board with fabric myself, and so let's see, I have my pieces here. Let's move this over here. I have my pieces, and I decided, I ended up watching another video of hers, which I'll link, and she has instructions for how to add a pocket, so you could put like a filter or something in there. And I don't really anticipate that I would do that, but she does walk through the steps, and I guess it doesn't hurt to have like a third layer between the world and my face, because this material is actually pretty thin, like you can kind of almost see through it in the light. So I figured, why not just be careful and safe and have a pocket filter, and then I can add something on the inside, some other layer if I want. So her instructions for the pocket filter is to fold it over about 2 inches and then iron it. So I'm gonna do that first. I'll call this my pocket filter. I'm just gonna iron out the wrinkles first, and I'm just ironing it on a dry heat, no steam. Okay, it doesn't need to be you know, too wild here. I love this little tiny iron, and just when I'm doing little projects like this, it gets into the corners really nicely, and I just don't have to pick up this big old iron, and I like it a lot. So I have my my little T, and she suggested going in about 2 inches. That seems like a lot to me, so I might just do 1.5 inches, because she's talking about how, you know, if you have little hands and stuff, and like I do have little hands, and so I don't think it'll be a problem for me to like get the pocket filter in there. So I'm just gonna do an 1.5 inch fold over and iron. Then she suggests stitching that down and then trimming off the excess. So let's do, I think that's pretty good. It's like 1.5 inches. That looks good to me. I'm not like worried about being overly precise, since this is on the inside and no one else is really going to see it or like be measuring it and comparing it. But if I was making it for someone else, I'd probably measure it more carefully. So I'm going to put that aside. And I do want to just measure, or not measure, I want to just iron my basic pieces. This is my liner piece, because they're all kind of wrinkled from, or have a fold line from being folded in my stash in my drawers. So I just want to kind of get that out. This is on the inside. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but I just thought it'd be a good idea. Okay, and then these pieces I do need to fold in half and iron so that they are kind of nice and not sharp, but like they're nice and even. So that looks evenish to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and do. That looks. Oh, I keep getting off there. Just hold it down. And this little mini iron does not get probably as hot as some of the fancy, really professional irons out there, but it does the job for me, because I don't do like a ton of sewing, I guess. I'm not in here sewing every day. We'll just say that. I do sew. I know how to sew. I've known how to sew for a long time. In fact, I used to be in school for fashion design way back when, in the like when I was a baby, when I was very young. And so yeah, I learned how to sew and all that stuff, and I haven't really made a lot of my clothing, but I think just knowing how to sew and having that fashion school education did at least train me to be able to have a good eye for quality garment construction, and being able to knowing how to care for my clothing so it would last for a long time. And then you know, if I was thrifting, I would be able to just eyeball something and know whether or not it was made of man-made fibers, or if it was made out of natural materials like silk or wool or cotton. And when you're thrifting and you're looking for specific types of garments that are going to be long wearing, you know, wool is one of those that's really heavy duty. It's really long wearing. It just requires some extra attention and care when you are washing it, because it could shrink if it's not treated. So you just usually have to hand wash it, in my experience. But anyway, so I don't sew a ton. I don't you know, like have a bunch of sewing equipment and supplies. I just kind of use things that are accessible for me. So she had the laid out pieces where this is your outside piece, and because of this fabric is like this, kind of like looks the same on both sides, there's not really much of a difference. It doesn't matter which way I put it up. And then she puts her kind of like liner pieces, and she lines them up with the corner, and then the bottom corner, and then looks good to me. And then she takes her the inside piece. This is going to be facing my nose, and this part is going to be on the outside. She puts this one right side in the inside on the sandwich, so the wrong side is showing, because when you sew it together you're going to flip it inside out. So I'm going to do that. Just line it up with the other pieces. Looks good to me. And then this piece also is going to be right side on the inside. Actually, I'm going to try it this way, because I think all of them got cut in a certain way. No, it looks better the other way, I think. So I'm basically just creating like a little sandwich, and I want to make sure as I sew from this side to this side that I'm catching all the edges. Before I sew all of these pieces, I'm going to sew these edges down first. So I'll see if I can show you guys how I do that. Alright, we're back at my sewing machine, and I've got my foot and my fabric, and I think she just said, I can't remember because I watched this last night and this is the next day, but I think she said that she just like aligned her fabric edge with her foot edge, her sewing foot edge, just because it doesn't really matter that much, and then she cut off the excess later. So I'm just gonna put my foot down, and you know, I'm gonna put it kind of like in the just past the edge of the fabric, because I don't want to start on the edge and have it like, sometimes it gets chewed up in there. So I'm going to backstitch it anyways, and this bobbin that I'm using doesn't have a lot of thread on it left, so I thought this would be a perfect use, just use it all up. So I'm going to start with this side, and I'm going to make sure that my stitch is a zero, that I'm on a straight stitch, and I'm going to do a fairly tight straight stitch. I'm holding on the back side, I'm holding these two threads kind of with my fingers just so that they don't like get sucked in. I don't know, I learned that probably in middle school. So let's go ahead and do it. And then I'm gonna do a back stitch. And I chose to use black thread. I thought it would blend in a little bit. So far so good. And this is a brand new needle. Okay, done with that. And then I do have a thread cutter on the back of this, but it's not my favorite. I usually have scissors around, but so here's what the seam looks like. And sorry about like the lighting in here if the lighting isn't great. I have a rainbow window film in this room for privacy in the bottom half of my window, and when the sun hits it just right, it creates a lot of colors, which is actually really pretty, but it can distort the lighting on this video, so apologize for that. So let's do the next one. And I wanted to show you guys as much of this process as I could, just so you can see how easy her instructions are to follow for someone who's never made that style of mask before, because I think she does a good job of presenting it. So let's go again. I'm going to hold down my threads. And again, I'm starting like a little bit in from the edge so I can back stitch it, because I don't want it to get all like crumpled up. Oh, I think my thread got sucked in, so it just needs to be brought back down. Oh, bumped the camera. Sorry about that. Okay, just gonna rethread my machine and needle. Maybe I'll have to show you guys how to do this one of these days. There we go. There we go. I've had this sewing machine for 20 years now. I don't know if that means it's vintage, but I got this when I was in fashion school because I saw an ad like somewhere. I don't remember exactly the whole situation, but I saw an ad somewhere like posted, and I was like, oh hey, like that would be good to have. And then there was like some kind of demonstration from the machine distributor or something like that. He was going to do a demonstration, and he did this demonstration, and he showed how, like, if you bought this accessory, it could cut the edge of the fabric as you sewed, so you wouldn't need a serger if you used a certain type of stitch. And it had all these decorative stitches, and then it also did, if you had some certain type of foot, you could do this and that. And basically it just comes with a whole bunch of different feet for like making buttonholes and all this other stuff, and it had all the bells and whistles. And then he did a demonstration where he sewed through like 20 layers of denim and 20 layers of leather and stuff, and he was showing how he uses that sewing machine to make patches for his leather jacket and all this stuff, and like he was sewing through all this stuff, and I was impressed. He probably had some like really heavy duty needles and stuff that I don't have, and I've never sewn through leather on this. I've sewn through faux leather on this, and it works a dream. But anyway, I did buy it and started sewing my own clothes with it back then, and it worked really well, and I was really, really happy with it. And then a disaster struck in 2004. I had it kind of, I didn't have anywhere to keep it, to store it, and then I ended up putting it underneath the, one of those wall, I don't know, plug-in, like air freshener plugins. I was trying to think of the word. And the guy I was dating at the time didn't realize he bumped it. The air freshener liquid, like oil that is inside of it, like tipped out and spilled over the top of my machine, and left her with some ugly scars. Okay, so I backstitched both sides. So now, after that, she's got a few little imperfections that just aren't very cute looking. Like, I'll show you right here. Like, these are little, it's like the plastic on the little tray thing melted. And there's a few other like little spill marks and stuff that they're permanent because it's the plastic, or like the liquid that was in the air freshener was really hot at the time, and it sort of melted through some of the plastic to where it's not, you can't just wipe it off. It's like, you know, embedded in there. I've cleaned it. It's been clean for years now, but it's got a permanent little mark or damage. And then some of the paint on the top and the metal part too. And I could probably repaint it or sand it down or something, but I just never worried about it, never bothered. Okay, so I have my liner, and I'm just gonna go ahead and sandwich it on top of the other pieces. And then I'm gonna go ahead and start my sewing this direction. I'm almost wanting to go and get a heavier duty needle, but we'll see if it gives me any trouble. So we'll see. I don't anticipate it will. Oh, you know what? She did pin it, so maybe I will do that. Hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. I have this pinned, and now I'm gonna go in with my sewing machine, and so she just suggests following along the line of this, the edge of your foot, your sewing machine foot. So I'm just going to do that. And she said you don't need to backstitch on this. And I think the reason why is because after you stitch over this, you're flipping it inside out and then you're top stitching it. So I am not going to worry about doing that. I'm just going to go for it. So I like that there's just like 2 seams in here. I mean, if I didn't do the liner pocket, it would just be 2 seams here. I'm just gonna lift up my foot here to tuck this in because it seems, I don't know if it's gonna do that, but I'll get a little closer because it feels like it just needs to be tucked in so it doesn't catch on the foot. And I have a little pin cushion right here off to the side that you can't see. I probably should have trimmed my liner pocket, but I did not remember to do that. And when I get to the top corner, I'm gonna put my needle in, and then I'm gonna pivot my needle at an angle. I don't think it matters all that much, but I like the way it gives a cleaner kind of point here, so I'll pull out my little needle here. And I'm just hand cranking it to get it to that point. I just feel like it gives it more of an edge. Okay, so one side done. It didn't take much time, so now I'm going to do the other side. And I'll probably be speeding these up so you can see. And the only reason I'm lifting my foot up is just because I'm not confident that the foot won't like bunch up my fabric when it's all coming at once. I want to make sure I have a flat seam that irons nicely. Okay. So far I'm using a medium Singer needle. It's the size 10/14 or 10/14, I think, or 100/14, and it's designed for use on medium weight fabrics like quilting cotton. And so far, even though I've got, you know, what is this, 5 layers of fabric here, it seems to be doing fine. In some cases, it's got 6 layers because it's going through the 2 folded over. Okay, so I finished that. Alright, I'll join you back on the ironing board. Okay, so I am going to trim off the excess of this here. Just being careful not to like cut through my seams or other layers of fabric. I'm just cutting off this. I should have cut this before, but I did not do it. I forgot. So I'm just going to do it with my pinking shears, and that just kind of ensures that it won't fray. I'm just trying to get close. I don't need to worry about getting like all up in it. I just don't want a bunch of extra fabric hanging out in there, and I don't really need that. Okay, so I got that out, and then in her instructions, you fold it all over. You just flip it inside out. So I'm going to do that. And then you press it. So that looks good. Oh, you know what? I have my pocket filter on the inside. I probably should have put that down first. I made a mistake, but that's okay. It'll still be fine. It'll work okay. It'll just be another layer. I won't worry about putting a filter in it. I could unstitch it, but I'm not, you know, I'm not worried about it. This is my first time making this, and I'm experimenting, and this is fabric in my stash. I'm not worried about, you know, like ruining it, or I only have so much. So I'm just going to iron this down and kind of like keep the seams sharp. Now, if I was smart, I would go back and watch her video as I do each step, but I'm just, you know, I'm just kind of winging it. I'm like watching a video. I'm the type of person who's like, I could do that, and then I just go and try to do it and like see what I learn as I do it. So now I know next time I go and try to put a pocket layer inside, that it needs to be the first layer on the inside, and then my liner layer goes on the outside so that I can have the pocket, because this is what's going to be facing my nose and mouth right here, and there's no pocket. It's going to get sewed up right here when I fold this over. So that's okay. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm not going to cry about it, but it sucks that it won't be there because I put that effort into it, but it's very minor. It's not very big of a deal. So just going to iron these seams flat on each side. Just kind of just flatten it out there. I'll do this side now. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. And then she suggests folding it over and then ironing it and then stitching over the top on the outside, like not on the inside, but on the outside, have a line of stitching, which I'm gonna do. Oops, this little guy is getting all bent out of shape. And I have a lot of strings and threads and stuff, so I'm gonna trim those off, because that's annoying for me. Okay, so I just need to get this little guy, you can't see it, it's not in camera, in the shot. So this little guy here just needs to be ironed, and it keeps on bending down a little bit further than I want it to bend, because I want it to be just folded over double, and that's where I'm going to put my elastic. So let's do this side too while I'm at it, and then I'm just going to press this, press that down. I'm going to trim these two. I just hate having all kinds of extra little threads and things. It just annoys me. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but it just feels tidier. Okay, I'm gonna do that. It feels like this little tiny iron is made for my tiny little hands. Like it's the perfect size for me. It's not a perfect ironing job, but I'm not gonna sweat it because I'm not really trying to do these masks for anyone else but me. So at least this one. This is my just experiment, like how do I like this mask pattern? So I guess you could call this my beta test. So I'm just gonna iron that last little bit here. Press it and then get this little guy flattened out. These little guys aren't quite, but they'll get sewn down anyway. Okay, I think it's all good. So now I'm going to stitch over the tops of these two seams here, but on this side. This is the outside. So this will open up and my face will be behind here. And then this part will get stitched down when I, stitch it. So this will kind of like have to fold up like this. And then this was going to come in and be folded twice like that and stitched down. And she probably folded over and stitches it down in such a way that like it kind of hides the raw edges on the underneath, and maybe I'll do that too, just because I think it will clean it up a little bit. And I have to remember to put my elastic in before I sew it, because that will make my life so much easier. So let's go back and do the next stitch. Okay, now I'm sewing through 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers here, so I'm hoping my little sewing needle can handle that amount of layers here, because it's just a medium weight needle. I kind of want to sew on this side just so I can make sure that I'm keeping the seam on the inside so it's not visible. So on this one she just says like sew close to the edge, and I'm just going to try to align my, there's like a little hole or gap here on my on the bottom here where my feed dogs come up. Those are, the feed dogs are like the little feet that hold on to your fabric and like kind of push it forward. So when they come up, or where they come up, there's like a little, I don't know, like a little divot or a hole, and I'm just going to try and align my fabric edge with that hole so I can keep it really close to the edge of my seam, I guess. So let's proceed. Okay. And I figure at any moment I'm going to run out of bobbin thread, so I can't remember if she said to backstitch on this, so just in case I am going to. I'm just going to go kind of slow because I don't know how well my sewing machine can handle so many layers. I don't want to stress it out. Especially since I'm not using a heavy duty needle. I think looking at it now, I think it would look nicer if the stitch was much closer to the edge, but I've already started, so I'm just going to keep going. And maybe this will just be my bottom piece. So I can try going a little closer on the top piece. Oh yeah, I was going to backstitch that. That was kind of messy, but that's okay. Cool, so I'm going to trim that off. And now I have one of my little flappies done, basically. So this will stick out, this little seam will stick out on the outside, but that's how it's supposed to look. So let's try this side now. I want to try getting it a little closer to the edge. I don't know how close I can actually get because it's hard, but we'll try. Maybe instead of lining it up with this, I'll line it up with the edge of the inside. That'll get me even closer. We'll try it. We'll give it a shot. Oh, that's really close. I'm almost worried that it's not quite catching, so I'm gonna move it in a little bit. So I'm basically just like trying to eyeball halfway. My edge of my fabric is halfway into that little hole where the feed dog comes up. So basically I've halved my seam allowance that was here. I'm trying to anyway. Oops, I forgot to do the back stitch on that. Oh well, I think it'll be okay. Alright, so here's my two. As you can tell, this one, the seam is a lot chunkier than this one where I tried to get a lot closer to the needle. But they're both pretty even, so I'm happy with that. Like, nothing major, although it does look a little funky on this end. That's okay. This is going to get folded over anyways. Like, it's going to be like boop, boop, and it's going to hide the elastic in it. So I am not overly concerned about that. And I have a couple of loose threads here that I'm just going to clean up. But otherwise, I'm so far pretty happy with this pattern. I'm glad my friend Marlena recommended I try it and was telling me about it. So, because she's been making a bunch of masks herself. She works in a job where she has to be not public facing, but she's working with other people every day. And so she doesn't have the luxury of just having one mask. She wants to have one that she changes out every single day so that she can just kind of wear a fresh mask every day. which I respect and understand. So because of that, I haven't needed to really, because I'm working from home, I haven't really needed to make any more masks. And so this is the first for me mask that I have made in a long time. And it might end up being too big for me. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. It'll be donated. I'm just trying it on now, and it feels like it is ever so slightly too big. Like it's a little bit long, and I might fold it down the next time I make it, like she suggested. But I am really happy with the construction, at least, and I think that this would be a much better fit on someone with a slightly bigger head or slightly bigger lower half of their face or bigger nose than me. In fact, if I really wanted to, I could probably trim off some stuff here and just like cut down some of this if I was worried about it, but I'm not that worried about it. And if I really wanted to, I could just fold over the bottom piece here, like, you know, just fold it down while I'm wearing it. Like it's, you know, it's fully, I guess, adjustable, I would say. I could definitely make something flexible with that. So I should probably go back and see what she did to finish these off, but I think she did fold in half and then fold in half again, if I recall. So I might have to go back and just double check what she did here on the video, and then so I can replicate it correctly, because the last thing I need is to be all frustrated because my mask doesn't do what it's supposed to do. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to make this a 1/4 inch and then a 1/4 inch and then stitch down and have, like, you know, just barely catch the edges in here, or if I'm supposed to fold it and then like have it sort of overlap the, hard to see that, but overlap the end of the mask where like all the layers are combined, because that's going to be a lot of fabric to combine layers. That's be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's like 7 layers of fabric right there just being folded over and sewn through. And that's not that I don't think my sewing machine can do it, and it is just a very short, you know, line there, but I want to just double check. So hold on with me and I'll be right back with the next step. Just a brief PSA about what to do with your little ends, your sewing threads when you're done. I go ahead and just save all my ends, all like my little pieces that are too small to really sew with or do anything with, and all the little threads, and I put them in this little container, and when I get enough, I use them for different projects. And as an example of one of those projects, I have this little it's like a little pin cushion here that I've created, and I just made a little tube of fabric, stuffed it with all my little threads and little bits of fabric, and then I stitched a piece of elastic to it, and then I have a little piece of Velcro on the back. Okay, so I'm showing you this little pin cushion, and then I'm going to take it off, but it's got a piece of elastic. This is just like the same elastic that you use to make those like hair ties that people wear. This is that, it's like a fold over elastic. That's all I really had, but I stitched some Velcro on it so that I could put it around my sewing machine on this part of my machine. And then my pins will be here all the time, so I can just put them here when I'm not sewing with them, and I don't need a ton for most of my projects. And for a lot of my sewing projects, I don't even use pins. I use clips, which I can talk about another time. But basically, that's one of the ways that you can use your little scrap threads and scrap pieces of fabric that are just way too small to do anything with. So that way you don't have to throw them away, and you still get some use out of them. So just a little quick tip, I guess. And there's, I mean, if I was making little stuffed animals or like dolls or something, toys, this would be a great use for that. And you could always like clip it down more to make it more fluffy. So I just used mine as is for that, because it didn't really matter if it was lumpy.
Okay, so she said in the video to measure your elastic out about 8 inches, and I have this like rainbow elastic. This is like for beading, and if I use this, then my two sides won't be the same color, which I don't think is a big deal. But I have a little bit more of this. And when I was making masks before for sale, or like when I was giving those out to people, I did not have enough elastic to give to everybody in every mask. This is literally all I have, and then this. So I just didn't use it. So this will be my first time really putting elastic in this way so that it goes around the ears. So I think I'm just going to start with this. I can always replace it if I need to. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to measure out 2 8-inch strips or pieces of this, and then I will insert it and sew it down. Okay, so I did go ahead and press these down. I didn't think it was necessary to just show you the folding over and pressing of that. So the way she showed it in the video was that like the way you fold it over, you press it down over kind of the finished edge, and it kind of traps the finished edges inside that. And she does backstitch on both sides of this, since this is like really the only thing holding the elastic to the mask. So I cut my elastic down, and I'm probably not going to need the whole 8 inches because I'm a fairly small person. I have a small face, small head, but I figured I would just follow the instructions for the most part on that, and then I can always trim it down if I need to later. So I'm just going to put this, I don't know quite how close to put it, so I'm just going to put it pretty close to the edge there, because I don't want to not have much space here in my channel for my elastic. So I guess that's like maybe like an 1/8 of an inch seam there. So let's go with that. Okay, so I've got the back stitching done. I just want to make sure that I'm tucking this little end in because it has all the loose threads that I don't want to show. Alright, and then I'm going to cut these down. So I've got my, I guess I can make a knot here, and then what I might do is get like a little bead that that these like just barely fit through, and that way I can tie a knot and then I can adjust this if I need to, but I think it'll be okay. But I think that might be nice to just have because I've seen other people doing that. So I'll leave those unknotted for now. And I'm going to put my next little piece in, my last piece of elastic. But I wanted to show you how I kind of tie in or loop in these little ends here. So I wet my finger and I just kind of like roll them so I can kind of grab them all. And then as I'm rolling them, they just sort of like roll in upon themselves. And that makes it easier just to tuck it in and then fold it over and then fold it the last bit. And I've found that just doing it that way makes it so that those little string ends don't show. But I need to make sure I do it on both sides, so I'm just going to do that on this side too. Well, it doesn't really need it, but I would rather just have it kind of tucked in there. Okay, so I've got my elastic in there, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm very surprised that I got through this sewing project without having to change out my bobbin because there was like almost nothing left on it. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and do this one now. back stitched. I did the last back stitch. Because I trapped the edges in here, I won't be able to use that pocket filter that's on the inside, and I'm not going to worry about it because, you know, that was a mistake that I made. I could have unstitched it, I could have redone it, but I'm not going to really worry about it. So I am going to go ahead and cut off my little ends here and put them in my holder. And when I was making masks before, I was really careful to tie these ends, these little thread ends, like tie them in a knot, double, and then trim them because I didn't want it to ever come unstitched. But this is just for practice for me, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And if I was really, really worried about it, I could even burn the ends because the thread I have is a polyester and cotton thread. So this is done, I think. I just need to put my little beads on the ends. So let's get that done. Okay, I'm back. I did find a bead. These are some wood beads that are in my stash that I thought would be good because it fits through, it fits over one piece of elastic really, I don't know, tightly, not, like it's pretty close fit. But if I hold the elastics together through there, or put them through together, then it's a really tight fit. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just trimming off that extra because it's hard to get in without all that fluff. It's kind of like it starts to fray at the end. So I'm going to try and put this, I'm stretching my cord a lot to try and squeeze this other piece in, and hopefully I'll be able to get it through there. I might have to try cutting this at an angle just to see if I can get it in. It might be difficult to get it through. So let's try that again. I feel like it's gonna go through, it just needs to be really shoved through, which is good because that means when I use it to tighten the mask as I'm wearing it, it'll sort of hold it in place. I can't quite get it through on the last bit here, so I'm gonna just see if I can get, I may need to get tweezers or pliers or something to push it through that last bit. And if it doesn't like it, then I'm gonna get a bead reamer and just smooth that out. So hold on. Okay, I just did, I got my bead reamer and I just kind of opened it up a little, just a tiny bit, so I could try to squeeze this one in. It just gets really frayed with all those little pieces, and it gets hard to get through there, so just going to trim off that last little bit. I don't want to lose a lot of the length, so I just need to get it in all the way through, and then it should be fine. There we go. So as you can see, like now it's a tight fit. I don't have to like jiggle it. It's a tight fit all the way down. Oh, I got my elastic dirty because it's got some brown, but it doesn't matter. But now I can knot the ends here and adjust it with the bead to fit my, you know, my ears, so that it's a tight fit. So I'm just knotting that. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. And the elastic will tend to fray, which is another reason why it should be knotted at the end. And I do have some stuff called Fray Check, or you could use just some like super glue on the ends. to stop it from fraying. I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm just trying this out. So there we go. So now I'm gonna just move my little bead down so that I can adjust it. I'm gonna try it on and let you guys know how I think it fits. And then when I put it on, this part is going over my nose and this part is opening up and going over my chin. So it should have at least 2 layers covering all parts of your face. And part of the reason why I wanted to try this pattern was so that I could have something that works okay with my glasses and doesn't get fogged up. So I'm wearing glasses right now, and I kind of like put my glasses over the nose bridge, and I would show you it, but I'm not. I'm like in my jammies and stuff. So it's around my ears. It actually doesn't need any tightening, but I know that my elastic over time may get stretched out and old, so that's part of the reason why I wanted that. And I could even get one of those like ear things that kind of takes the pressure off of your ears if you're wearing it all day. But yeah, it fits pretty well. Like I said, I think it's a little bit too long for me. I wish I could show you. Maybe I'll try to put a picture in at the end, but I can definitely adjust that with the pattern and make a fold to fit my face better. And I'm just going to fold the 2 top pieces down halfway so that it fits my face a little bit better, but there's plenty of room in here for me for my face, and I could just swap this out and give it to my boyfriend. I'm wearing it and it is not suctioning to my face. I don't have like a nose bridge piece over top of it, but yeah, it's pretty comfortable to wear. I don't feel like it's hurting my ears at all. It's a little different than I'm used to because I'm used to wearing a mask that has around the head elastic, and I may just decide to go ahead and do that anyways, like make an around the head elastic, which is just a loop, and that you put like a big loop that fits all the way around your head, and then you just put the loop through the 2 oops, sorry for bumping that. I just was stuck on my glasses. You just put the loop through here, and instead of making it short to fit over your ear, you just make it this elastic long enough to go around. This part would go around the back of your head, and then these 2 would like basically be connecting one elastic, and then this elastic goes around the back of your neck, and that way you can just kind of put it all the way around your head. But I like it. I did have to fold this down a little bit because it's just a little too long, and it goes up like over my the bottoms of my eyes a little bit, and then this part was like starting to bunch up under my chin, so I folded it over because this middle part is just a little too long for me. So I would take the pattern piece like she showed in her video and like fold it like this and create like a little wrinkle, like a little pleat to hide more of that fabric, or not hide more of that fabric, but before you actually cut it out, you make this pattern piece just slightly smaller depending on how big your face is. So I will definitely experiment with making another mask that is a little smaller for my face, because this part is definitely kind of too long for me, this like tip to tip here, and that is because it's half of this, and this is just too much, you know, space for my face. But I do think it would be good for a man's nose. Like, there's plenty of room here for a guy's face and a guy's chin to fit in, as long as he doesn't have like a huge ass beard. So this is what it ends up looking like on your face. It kind of has that profile. So this unfolds and fits over your nose, and then this part just kind of narrows down around your ear. Yeah, so far I'm happy with this. It was actually much easier to make than I, thought it would be, and it took up less time to make, I think, just because, the first time I make it, yes, it's going to take a little while because I'm figuring out the steps, but after I cut out more, and experiment more with like the size that I want. I could definitely see that being a faster and easier way of making masks. And since this is now my second ever mask for myself, I might try to make a few more in different colors. I have a lot of really bright, fun colors that it just seems like people didn't really gravitate towards those. They wanted like the blacks and the navies and the browns and things that were like kind of neutrals in general. So I have a bunch of really pretty fabrics that I think will be cool. So if I make more of those, I will post on my Instagram so you can see what those look like. But I'm really happy with this pattern and I'm glad I tried it out. Thanks for watching.